I literally just completed Last of Us 2 on PS5, and my God, that was an experience. That was an experience. It beggars belief, really, why there ain't more games like that, like these story-driven games with incredible detail and immersion. It's put you in that world. You're the character. You feel the emotions. You feel the fear because you do certain parts, certain elements. But the story's just incredible, and so is the environments. And it's for me, it's the best franchise in video game history. I was already a massive fan of the original Last of Us on PS3, which I still have. I've completed that game about 3 or 4 times, the original, but for whatever reason, I never got around to finishing the second game because I had it on PS4. I sold my PS4, and then I never got around to just completing it. So I literally have, um, and I watched the TV shows as well. So like I said, I've always loved the original game. Watched the TV shows over the summer. So in this instance, I actually watched the part 2 of The Last of Us on the TV show before I'd actually finished The Last of Us 2 game. However, I actually got quite a way forward in my previous experience with the game. So from my understanding is part 3 of The Last of Us TV show is actually going to be Abby. So that's the other protagonist, so in essence, I'd already got as far as the game, the TV show anyway, in my previous playthrough. But I've started all over again, playing it again, and my God, this game is epic. It's even bigger than the first one. Like for me, like I was like, nothing will ever beat The Last of Us, the first game. But then over, I think June, I think it was about June or July, I played through Days Gone. And I was like, this game blows my mind too. And I couldn't decide between Days Gone and The Last of Us which one I think's better. Both of them have like a take on zombies, but they're called something else. But they're not always zombies. Sometimes they're freaks. It can be all sorts of things like that, really. So they focus more on hordes with Days Gone, and it's more open world. You've got a motorbike. So you're not really restricted. You've got a bit more freedom, but again, it feels like a thriving world, and it's quite expansive. Whereas The Last of Us takes you there in a very linear, story-driven pace. You can't just like ignore a mission or something. You have to literally go through the story as it's told. And if you get caught up in anything and it's get a bit heavy, it's frustrating. But you can reduce the settings. There was one section I had to reduce the setting because it was just it was impossible in the end. And it's probably not a part that people might be thinking. It was just this literal tedious part that you just go, I'm going to have to do this just to get through that sector because otherwise you can't get on with the game. Whereas with Days Gone, you can do different things. I'm not here to talk about that one, but I just wanted to make that clear. So what I don't want to do is give too many spoilers, but I can't help it because I just want to really just delve into the story of it itself because I find it quite interesting. But, initially we're shown Joel and Ellie in the first game, and that's literally who you are. You really cater around these two characters, and you sort of fall in love with them. You feel protective of them. And then in the second game, we get Abby, who's on a revenge mission because of something that happened to her father. And in the end, Ellie wants revenge on Abby. And it's just this massive circle of revenge. And I can see the good and bad in both characters, and I really see the similarities. I think they're both very similar. They're both on a revenge mission and ultimately end up on a seeking redemption, but different stages of the story. And it's just interesting how they come to be. So they're very different. They're different characters in themselves, but it's very similar too. But my daughter, for instance, is incredibly anti-Abby. She completed the game over the summer, so I allowed her the time to do that. And I thought I'll play it after. I'll play for it after. And she hated being Abby. She couldn't handle it. She was so attached to Ellie. Whereas I saw the similarities, and I give people the benefit of the doubt, and I saw the negatives in her personality, but also the positives too. And again, I just saw the similarities between the two, and in the end, you can appreciate both, But I just found the end was crazy. At first, I thought it was a bit drawn out. The end, I thought you could have stopped before that. Although it was beautiful, the way it was, the graphic design, the way you felt this harmony after so much freaking heaviness. There was actually a point in the game where you're going around this building, and it was so exhausting because it was just one enemy after another, like really depths of hell, like really dark characters. and you're thinking, Jesus, they just want to get out of it. And then as you're climbing up, you see this beautiful, you see the light, you see the daylight, and you just see freedom, and you get hope. And you're thinking, oh, this is great. Like, finally, we're out of this shit. Because normally that's what it means. Instead, you went there and then back down again. And I thought, oh, for crying out loud, that was exhausting. And that's what the game does to you. You know, it puts you on a roller coaster where you just can't wait to get out of some situations, you know. And then it's just this sometimes they give you like a beautiful moment after. And the part with that is, it's just this. I find quite interesting with people in general is how they do seek revenge. I don't see the point of it myself. I don't live my life like that. It's okay if someone's done something wrong, or I feel like karma will reach whoever, you know, is in their own way, and it's their own lesson to learn. It's not for us to make people learn a lesson. That's the point, isn't it? You know, people, they feel so. It's like the ego just gets in the way and it overruns them, so it controls their emotions and dictates their actions. And it's just crazy to me, because the reactions you do will have consequence for both sides, and there's no guarantee it works out how you want it. It's not going to solve a problem, you know. So, like, for instance, I don't want to give away the things, but even like, I was having a hard time towards the end of the game, because I'm not like a revenge ilk sort of person. So I felt the game could have ended at a certain point, but instead we go on a revenge mission, which I didn't feel comfortable with, because I'm like, I don't agree with this. Like, why would you bother doing that? And you in a game like that. I know it's a game, but if you're thinking of it in life in general, let's say you went through this apocalyptic era, and you know, of course, people have different factions, but there's enough like chaos in the world. There's enough death. There's enough hate. There's enough issues. You know, taking people's lives is a huge thing, and that's what I was thinking. Like, for someone to get revenge, it's not just the person you're seeking the revenge on; it's all the collateral damage to get there. And it was like, this is so unnecessary. Like, really, just for your ego to find closure, it's like, just make peace with it. You know, go on your own journey. It's like, it's almost like the thing they often say, isn't it? The best revenge is to live a good life. It literally is. It's like to destroy someone else's. It doesn't give you that. Doesn't provide redemption. It doesn't provide closure. It just gives you more nightmares to contend with. You know, it's just the amount of like hurt you've had to do, and that's effectively what happens. You know, and there are consequences along the journey for this revenge story. But I just thought, what on earth are you doing? You've got a chance to live the happy ever after, and I don't know why you don't just take it. But you had to keep pushing, and that's what some people are like that. You know. But this story, it's just it's the artistic design, the story narrative, the every part of this is just incredible. And like many of us have been waiting a while for them to make a third one. Even though I hadn't finished the second one, I still wanted that. I've still craved them to finish a third one. But inevitably, it's going to get harder and harder, because that's where they keep doing it. They're pushing the boundaries, and it's making it challenging. So I don't know. I mean, I'm really hopeful we do get a third in the story, but from my understanding, they haven't even started working on The Last of Us Part 3, and it takes years to make. So my guess is, even if they decided to make a Last of Us Part 3 game, I don't think we'll get it to about 2030 at the earliest. And I think that's quite sad. You know, that's a long time. But like I say, I don't want to digress too far, and I don't want to give too much away. But like I say, I just found the story quite captivating. And a third game, it could easily be a different protagonist, a different person in the world, you know, because there's so much going on in that environment. It doesn't have to even pick up off someone you know. But what I found quite beautiful in the game itself was the overlap with the stories. So certain things happened, then it switched to Abby, and then Abby's going on her journey to get to that same location, and then you're seeing it from her point of view. And then even when they do the cutscenes, it's just this. It really is cool. But the good thing about when you finish the game, you've got a new game plus mode, which is going to be good. So that means you carry off where you've left off with your progression, like with your weapons and all the upgrades you've done. There are extras like you had in the first game. So, for instance, you can do unlimited ammo and things like that, which kind of takes away from the element of survival, I think, and that restricted thing to give it like life. It makes it feel real. It gives authenticity, doesn't it? But there were some sections of the game where it was just like ridiculous. You're trying to overcome like this really, really heavy onslaught, and you just didn't even have the weapons to handle it. And it was just that for me was ridiculous. And that's the time when I had to reduce these settings just that one time in the game, because I'm just not getting out of it. I was stuck. You know, they didn't provide enough ammo after a certain situation to then make you able to do the other part. If you had unlimited ammo, wouldn't have had the problem, but kind of maybe it would ruin the rest. But it's not just ammo. There are other perks you can do. You can do new skins as well, so that's pretty cool. So you can change the way Abby and Ellie look in the same way you could with the first game with Ellie and Joel. Um, but also, what's the other one? There's another one because, like I said, the paths crosses paths with Abby and Ellie. Like, so Ellie, you get so far, then Abby, you'll take over, and it'll go timeline back to the same thing. So they usually call it Seattle 1, Seattle Day 2, D3. So what they've got now, and there's a new mode as well called chronological. So you do it. I think you're doing it in the order as the events actually happened. But I don't know if that constant. I don't know if it's a constant switch back and forth because of the timelines, and I don't know if that'll get a bit heavy. Like how much would that get? But I think there's something quite interesting about that. So these games I'll be playing for the rest of my life. Last of Us, I inevitably know. Anyone who played the first Last of Us will know it gets heavy at times. So there's certain sections you go, I don't want to go through that again. With The Last of Us 2, I can guarantee you anybody that played it is going to have like moments where they're going to remember certain set pieces and go, I don't know if I can handle that again. Because it's that intense, but the story is that great and the gameplay is incredible. But it's like, can you put yourself through that roller coaster? So I completed it in 27 hours, which is good because I think Days Gone took me 40 hours. So it's a good pace and it's a good amount of content, But yeah, so I'll be playing it for the rest of my life. I'll be playing it annually, probably like the Last of Us 1, then I'll go and play The Last of Us 2. And then at certain periods of the year, I'll probably enjoy the TV series as well. And these will be part of my habits because I think they're just incredible. But it got me onto another topic. Like I just thought, not everybody's a gamer. Not everybody knows what good games are out there. Now, of course, there's a variety of games, but I just thought if you literally love The Last of Us 1 and 2, what are you going to play next? Like, what is there? Because the games range so much. There's some things that are just nothing like it. But these are my suggestions. If you love that game, because there's only two of them, and you can play them on repeat. No reason why you can't, because they're quite long and in depth. But if you want to go and play something else, I would suggest these. Let me just get it up. So that's The Last of Us Part 2. My God, man, I'm still like recovering from the end. We're like, wow. Yeah, I don't want to give away parts. There's parts I could go in more depth with and talk about specifically, but I just don't want to give it away. I did so many screenshots of this game and screen recordings because you can on PlayStation so easy, and I was just doing it just for my own memory because I freaking loved it so much. So let me try and go over to see if we can do this. Oh, so there's Last of Us 1. And it's like, that's when she was younger. That's when she's just like really learning about the fact that she has a purpose in this world. And, the world is cruel, but she was like almost like protected to a degree until the event started. And then she's literally having to go across. Anyone that's probably seen the TV show can understand it. The world's gone to shit and everywhere's danger. So then we had that. And then, of course, she's a bit more grown up, more independent. She got to make her own choices and her own way in the world. And revenge really does cause so much havoc. I do love the fact that in the background there we've got the Ferris wheel because that's a huge centerpiece in the show, in the game. So I would suggest in this order, personally, Days Gone. If you've played The Last of Us and you crave some more, I would suggest Days Gone personally because I absolutely loved it. And it actually, before I finished Last of Us 2, it made me question what one do I prefer, Days Gone or the original Last of Us, just because they're that good. Like, it's that good. I think people play it down. They don't realize how good Days Gone is once you get into it. So as you can see, it says PS4, but there is a PS5 upgrade. I don't think you can buy it on disc in PS5, which I think is a bit mental. But it's a £10 extra upgrade. So if you've got the PS4 version, you pay £10 extra and you get all the bells and whistles on the PS5. You can also play it on the PC as well. But I don't think the PC has the upgraded lighting and things, from my understanding. I may be wrong, but I don't think it did get the upgrade. But it might have done. Maybe it did. Who knows? But yeah, so that's like I say, you've got certain areas you unlock as you go, and it just becomes more expansive. Then you start helping different factions. Then you deal with this weird cult that you have to try to infiltrate, and there's a whole situation with that. And then you go to this other area, so you unlock it. So you think your game's finished at a certain point. It's after quite a while, about 25 hours in, you think, oh, right, it's coming to an end. That was epic. All of a sudden, you open up another area, and it's even more wild, and then you travel between. There's nothing I can say that would absolutely do this justice. It is incredible. You upgrade the bike as you go. So effectively, your bike is your companion. It's a bit like in other games you have horses, you've got a motorbike. But it's not like this motorbike's overpowered. It literally it breaks sometimes. You can you can have to sit there and just repair it. Press a button, you have to wait a few seconds. And it's similar to the way you would heal yourself on The Last of Us. So you would press the heal button, you have to wait while you do your bandages. It's the same thing. You just take a few seconds to try and fix your bike and then get out of there. But I just think if you love Last of Us, you're probably going to fall in love with Days Gone. But you have to accept that it's different characters. But by the end, you do really like the character you've got, his friends, and his effectively he's on a pursuit to try to find his wife, who got there was an evacuation as this invasion was coming in, this horde, and there's twists to it with the government, and yeah, so he's just trying to work his way to find her, really. And time goes on, of course, so things change. But oh my god, that is just as epic. I kid you not. But in its own way, it's not linear. It's more open and expansive. The other one is Uncharted. So Uncharted 4 specifically, I think would be absolutely, because it's made by the same people. So if you're familiar with the mechanics, the gameplay of The Last of Us, you'll be able to pick the controller up, and I think you'll feel at home with Uncharted. It's different to The Last of Us. It was done before The Last of Us. I don't know if Uncharted 4 was after The Last of Us, actually. I don't know if Uncharted 4 came between The Last of Us and Last of Us 2 or not. I'm not sure. But it is incredible. So there's 3 in the series, but the 4 is the most modern, and I consider the most epic. And there's sections where it goes back to childhood, so you're running around as a child in boarding school, wherever he was, and I think that's pretty cool. The graphics are incredible, just like The Last of Us. I don't think there's games that look any better than the ones Naughty Dog do, to be totally honest. Even the ones from like Grand Theft Auto and, what Rockstar do. But I think, I just think Naughty Dog just out of this world. But yeah, Uncharted is like Tomb Raider or Indiana Jones. If you think of it like that, they're on a quest to solve a mystery, a puzzle, or it could be treasure, but usually it's a puzzle, and you've got things to do throughout. But the graphics are on point, just like Last of Us, and the gameplay is very similar. It's just more of an action adventure, so you're traveling a lot more, and it's more like you're in a movie. Whereas the other one was more like you're in a TV show. But this feels like you're in a movie, so you're in this big movie with so many set pieces, and it feels cinematic, and it's just great. So again, you have to move away from the central characters that are part of The Last of Us and understand that there's just, if you stay there, you've only got 2 games for the rest of your life. You have to move on somewhere and enjoy things. So like I say, Days Gone is a great alternative. It's similar-ish. Uncharted is different, but it will feel similar in some ways. And I think it introduces you to other types of games, and it's an incredible adventure. I love it. If you get this bundle, it comes with the extra. I think it was a standalone, but it's almost like DLC. So it's more just an extension of that game. It's a shorter game. I can't remember exactly how long, maybe 15 hours, 10 hours. I can't remember now, but it was good. So that's worth doing. And the other one was Red Dead Redemption 2. I absolutely love Red Dead Redemption. The first one, it's on one of my top 5 games, but I think that's part of nostalgia. If you're looking at like for instance, if you're going to play Red Dead Redemption 2 and you have a decent PC, I'd play on that. That's how I play it. It looks incredible. My ultra wide panel. It runs at higher than on the consoles. It's 30 FPS, and that will feel a bit juddery. It won't feel very smooth, and it's just a limitation because they never did an update for next generation consoles. When it come out on PC, of course, it's unlocked. You can play higher frame rates. So it's like a next-gen experience, which it was all the way back then. But it just looks sharp. It looks absolutely incredible on PC, and it runs smooth as hell. So again, totally different to those games in terms of the settings, but again, it's still the wilderness. It's the Wild West sort of thing, really. But the Red Dead Redemption 2, as opposed to the first one, it's built in chapters, similar like Last of Us, really. So you'll get to a certain part of the story. So you have a certain section. They will travel there. You'll interact. You can hunt. You can do all sorts of things, and it feels really real. It's incredible. And then you get to a certain part of the story, and they'll move on, and they'll go to a different area. So it's a bit more closed off than the first Red Dead in that sense. But it's incredible, and it looks great, and it's another story game. And before The Last of Us and things, that was the best. Those series is so I consider them two of my favorite series, Red Dead Redemption and The Last of Us. But if I'm putting them anywhere, Last of Us is well ahead. But I don't know if we'll see a third one, unfortunately. yeah, look, this could have gone on forever, and I could go in more detail. I just really, really trying to rein it in so I don't give away spoilers. But when you're talking about video game history, for me, The Last of Us Part One and Part Two are in my top five. I can't even remember exactly everything that was in my top five now because I did. There's so many games. I'd have to. I can't even remember. I made a list now because it takes time to come up with a list. You know, when you think about absolutely everything. I really like the Horizon Zero Dawn games. Horizon, well, Forbidden West and Zero Dawn. I love them too. I think they're underrated. Um, but when I actually think about my favourites, it's going to be it's Red Dead and um, but I'm trying to enjoy some of the Star Wars games as well. So there's ways to go. I think it's just about finding the ones that are single player um, action games effectively, and then you'll find there's a story to them. So there's a story to the Star Wars ones. I'm trying to look on my screen now what I've got installed. The Division, I like the Division. That's a bit different, but you know, it's again that's like a post-apocalyptic. So you don't have zombies. It's more just the fact that the streets. I think the streets of Boston um, are now just filled with you know good guys and um, almost like vigilantes, and it's just this apocalyptic environment. But that's pretty cool too. As a side note, perhaps I don't know. I don't think it'd be as fast paced as the others, but I like Death Stranding. I find that relaxing, but I'm not sure people would have the patience for that if you're just solely if you're coming off of The Last of Us. Hogwarts Legacy, that's good too. That's got a good story, and it covers. Obviously, it's a Harry Potter world, so that's something to consider. I'd say they're the main ones I would go with. So yeah, I mean, I'll try and get them here so you can just see. The Days Gone, Red Dead 2, and Uncharted. That's what I would suggest. And then if beyond that, of course, if you like Red Dead Redemption 2, you can go and play the first Red Dead Redemption. And then you can start looking at games in that direction as an Indiana Jones game nowadays. That's pretty epic as well. I think that's first person though, so you might have to decide if you're comfortable with first person games. Then you've got Assassin's Creeds, which I think are great, and there's loads in that series. Um, Uncharted. So if you like Uncharted, there's 4 of them anyway. So there's enough there. And if you like Uncharted, then you might move on to Tomb Raider, and you start, you know, going in that direction. Really, the Days Gone's open world. So again, if you like that, you'd probably transition over to Assassin's Creed and things. Off the top of my head, yeah. But anyway, hopefully that's given some people for pause for thought like what they want to play next. But my God, these games are the best of the rest. They're like heads and shoulders. This is crazy.